On behalf of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of India, we would like to welcome you to this evening's Solidarity Concert to mark the 3rd anniversary of the incarceration of the 7 former leaders of the Baha'i community in Iran, and to remember all human rights victims in Iran. Farah Motalabi came to India in 1978 as a student. She completed her Masters of Commerce in Andhra Pradesh. In 1986, she married and settled in Orissa. Farah and her husband are running a school in rural area near Bhubaneswar in Orissa. The school is catering to the needs of 120 children who have been deprived of proper education. She has 2 daughters. It is indeed a pleasure that she is in India, and also I think her being in India and today for us to be here showing solidarity for freedom of religion in Iran and also for Iran, to bring how close we are to this kind of injustice. May I invite Farah to come and speak a few words. Farah, please.
May 14th marked the 3rd anniversary of the imprisonment of 7 leaders of Iran's Baha'i community. After an illegal 13-month detention in Tehran, Evin prison, and short trial, the 7 were sentenced in August 2010 to 20 years imprisonment for crimes that they have never committed. They had been members of a group permitted by the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran up until their May 2008 arrest to attend to the minimal needs of the 300,000 Baha'i community. They are peace-loving, obedient to the law of their land, and have worked for the betterment of Iranian society. On 14th May, they suffered 7,734 days in prison under such harsh physical and psychological conditions. The 7 Baha'i leaders symbolize the operation of a nation. These 7 leaders are Mrs. Fariba Kamalawadi, who is my aunt, Mrs. Mahvash Sabet, and other 4 men, Mr. Khanjani, Mr. Tawakkoli, Mr. Tisfa, and Mr. Rezai, and Mr. Naimi. They are true prisoners of conscience. According to the prisoner's lawyer, Nobel laureate Shirin Ebadi, the court proceedings were a farce, producing no evidence of any crime. The 7 men and women were accused of crimes such as insulting religious sanctities, threatening national security, and spying for Israel, charges that were categorically denied. After an appeal, the 20-year sentence were reduced to 10 years. 2 months ago, the court reinstated the 20-year sentences despite the fact that an appeal court had revoked 3 of the most egregious charges. To date, none of the court decisions, the original verdict, or the ruling on appeal have been given in writing to the prisoners or their attorneys. During 6 months of the trial, which were in 6 sessions, they hardly had 1 hour of legal counsel. Just you can imagine They had all these 7 members, hardly they had 1 hour access to legal counsel. Reports these past 2 weeks indicate the 2 women prisoners, Fariba Kamalabadi, a psychologist and mother of 3, and Mahwash Sabet, a school principal, have been transferred to Qarchak prison, 60 kilometers from Tehran. They are incarcerated with up to 400 other women prisoners in a large warehouse-type room with minimal facilities. Since 2004, some 382 Baha'is have been arrested, with 75 currently in prison, and more than 100 awaiting rearrest and sentencing. Business licenses and government jobs are denied to Baha'is. The few Baha'is admitted to university are expelled when their religion becomes known, and Baha'i homes are frequently ransacked by government officials. Their homes have been burned in some cases, but those whose passions are aroused by anonymous pamphlets circulated to create animosity towards the Baha'is. In March of this year, the wife of the eldest prisoner, Jamaluddin Khanjani, near 80 years of age, died in Tehran. Contrary to custom, Khanjani was refused permission to attend the funeral in Tehran. Events are taking place around the country and the world this week to mark the anniversary of the arrest of the 7, with special prayers being said at Baha'i gatherings in communities throughout India. Iranian officials dismiss claims of systematic discrimination against Baha'is and say no groups are persecuted on religious grounds. I plead with all my heart that injustice suffered by countless innocent citizens of Iran could be highlighted.
Expressions of the human free spirit. And that's one of the reasons why we chose art, music, drama, to show the solidarity, to reflect the freedom of expression and the freedom of one's belief. And I'm very happy that these artists have agreed to perform for us today. Our first performance is by Sumina Das, who began to study classical dance at an early age under the direction of her guru, Mayadhar Raut. Now, as a senior disciple, she has given numerous solo performances and is part of the Mayadhar Raut School of Odissi dance repertoire. Sumina's forte lies in her strong rhythmic footwork and graceful postures. Her performance tonight is Jayadev's Dash Avatara, which is a description of Lord Krishna's 10th incarnation. So without further ado, here is Sumina Das. Please welcome her. Thank you.
this story of the 7 Yaran for a few years now. And when I look at them, I look at their faces and I say, do these people look criminals? I don't think so. Do these people deserve 20 years in prison? I don't think so. Obviously, every nation has a due course of justice and they try to go through that. But in this case, after having interviewed Shireen Abadi and many others, I realized that that due course hadn't really been followed. And I can't believe in 2011 we as a world community cannot impress upon Iran to make sure that the due process is properly followed. I can't believe that we don't have the might of a world to impress upon Iran that there is no other way other than giving these people their due process. There have been 23 UN resolutions being passed against things like human rights and religious freedom and all other kinds, and none of them have been followed by Iran. It's sad. I know many Baha'is, and one of them is a relative of was one of the 7 Yaran, and I was asking her about why don't these people just leave Iran? Isn't that one way to, get away from the genocide which almost seems to be happening? And anyways, by the way, this is not the first round of Baha'i leaders in Iran that are being persecuted. This is the third round of leadership that is being persecuted. She said, but that's not what we want. We want to make sure we can live in the nation we belong. And that's where we belong, and we want to make sure that we become the face of the rest of the Iranian people as well. And it's not as if the Iranian people are persecuting against the Baha'is, it's the Iranian government. So very clearly, there is a marked difference between the two groups. I think it's an opportunity for all of us as the world community to stand behind these 7 people and their relatives and their families to make sure that justice is achieved. I'm sure that being in prison does not break their spirit. The spirit is still alive. A few months ago, one of these members, I think the psychologist, was helping people in prison break away from all the misery that they suffer in a prison. So an opportunity for all of us to stand here today in solidarity of hoping that freedom and justice would come soon to these 7 people. And thank you very much for having me here.